But when it comes to real life, that's when problems start. Because if you treat real life like you take sides on a football match or a soccer game, everybody loses. So we're going to talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. Because in this video, the problem I want to point out is a lot of people don't really care about facts anymore. So you guys who are not aware of that whole situation, what basically happened was, this was in response, so there was a riot in response to a shooting that happened of Jacob Blake. This was, I believe, in Wisconsin. So what happened was some people came in to defend people from the protesters, and in the midst of all of this was Kyle Rittenhouse, who ended up shooting and killing 2 guys in the whole mess. In this video, I'm not really going to go into much about the actual case itself, because actually I will touch on it a little bit. It's kind of important that we understand what the facts are in this case, so we kind of know what is right and what's wrong. Kyle Rittenhouse, is he guilty or is he innocent? Well, verdicts found him innocent, and personally I do agree. If you do look at the evidence, it does show that the shootings were actually in self-defense. But one thing I would say that he probably should have got a charge for, I mean, maybe he did, but it was just him being underage, because if you guys didn't know, he is 17. So him being underage and also being in that location, like he took a gun across state lines, because he's not, he wasn't from the state originally. So he took a gun across state lines. I do believe that probably deserves some punishment, but not, I'd say, like jail time. The point I'm trying to make in this video is that there are people who saw the evidence put out in the trial, who saw the videos, because they have videos in the trial, by the way, which I think has really helped his case. They saw the confessions, they saw everything, and they still thought that this was a missed verdict, that the verdict was wrong. And this is a huge problem that keeps growing in America. We're really devolving into tribalism, and I take it from me. I grew up in Nigeria, and tribalism is a huge problem. I remember when I was a kid, there was a huge civil war that was going on. Like, my mom had to take us in because there were shootings, there were bombings, and all that stuff. This whole left, right, white, black thing is really devolving into tribalism. And I mean in the sense that people aren't even looking at the fact anymore. People aren't saying what's right and what's wrong. People are not saying that. They decide what is right based on your identity. They decide what is wrong based on who is committing a crime. It's to the point where you can tell somebody something happened, and before they decide if that was a good thing or a bad thing, or if what the person did was right or wrong, they have to know the race of the person, they have to know the sex of the person, they have to know the identity of the person. We're really allowing ourselves to be blinded by our biases. Because I'm black, or you're white, or whatever, that doesn't change what's right and what's wrong. If you see somebody doing the right thing, tell them that's the right thing. If you see somebody doing the wrong thing, call them out on the wrong thing. It's not because he's on your side, on their side, or whatever side. In right and wrong, there are no sides, frankly. Because people were actually pushing for this kid, Kyle, to get to go to prison, even though they saw the same fact. And don't get me wrong, people can have their own opinions about whatever they want to have their own opinions about. I'm completely with that. But the main thing I do want to say is you shouldn't let your own biases blind you to the facts, blind you to how things really are. Because honestly, like, people are really treating this like a football match. For example, when I'm watching football or basketball, that's my favorite sport, by the way. So when I'm watching basketball, and let's say my team does a foul and the foul call is under review, I'm gonna push for that foul call to be revoked because this is my team, I don't want them to lose, and all that stuff. If this happens to the other team, honestly push for that foul call to be reviewed, because I want to give my team the most advantage possible. And people are honestly treating real life that way. People are honestly treating this man's life that way. I don't care, he's not on my side, so I want him to be punished. It doesn't even matter if he was right or wrong. He just needs to be punished because he's not on my side. This is all divisive talk, if I'm being honest, and all it serves to do is create a foundation, create an environment where we now devolve into tribalism. Because now you can say, oh, you're not doing this, so you're not with us, or you're against us. Now, it doesn't matter whatever you do, whether it's right or wrong, I am going to push for it to be wrong because you're not on my side. So now we're devolving into this whole identity politics where whatever you do is only correct based on your identity, basically. I do think if America can kind of move through past this whole us them mentality, and I do know there are some groups who push this heavily. So I'm not trying to go into the whole politics of things. I'm not really a fan of politics because it's not really like a left versus right type of thing. It's more politicians versus civilians, if I'm being honest. One of the main things I want to talk about also is we need to start moving past this whole identity or this whole my side, your side, and we gotta start calling a spade a spade. In the trial of Kyle Rittenhouse, there was evidence, both video, testimonial, and every other kind of evidence out there showing that this guy acted in self-defense. But that didn't matter to the other side, I'll put it that way, because he's not on your side, so it doesn't really matter what he says. He's guilty. Because here's the thing, back in the day, this is one of the reasons why I really do push that you should keep in mind that cops are just like you and me for the most part. They don't really have that much training today. A lot of them are very inexperienced and scared, frankly. So the whole shooting of Jacob Blake, that happened a while ago, and this basically what happened. If you want to see the video, you can see it. I can probably show some pictures up here, but I'm not going to show the whole video because it does get pretty graphic, and I'm not trying to get my thing rated R. I've been in that situation before. Actually, I've had a situation where I was apparently a suspect because at a bar that I just left, there was a police call there, and then somebody said, oh, somebody had a gun, and apparently, they're like, oh, it's the big black guy there, and he probably has it. So I've had a situation where I had 5 cops, guns drawn, like at me. I was just completely confused. But what did I do? I didn't even know the situation because I was like walking down the street. I like took off my headphones, turned around, hands up. They came up, did the whole whatever, like they tackled me, handcuffed me. Like they were not gentle about this in any way. Thing is, I knew the steps to take when I was faced with that scenario. And the really irritating part is a lot of you guys also know the steps you would take if you were in that scenario. Yet a lot of people keep pushing this anti-police, like resist the police rhetoric. Honestly, I don't care what you are, what you believe, what race you are. If you're pulled over by the police, cooperate, please. So the reason I bring that up is because I know if I made the wrong move in that situation, things might not have ended well for me, frankly speaking. Because the most that happened was I was handcuffed till they figured out that they had the wrong guy. And then they let me go. I mean, don't get me wrong, they held me for like 30 minutes while they were, doing some interviews. But yeah, they figured that out, which is cool. But we do have to advocate for young black folks, African American folks, to do the right thing, especially in those circumstances. Otherwise, we could have a case like Jacob Blake that led to this whole protest, and that led to Kyle Rittenhouse being on trial, on the verdict and everything else after that. If we don't call a spade, what's going to end up happening is people are just not going to take the actual issue seriously anymore. For example, if you don't call something that's wrong, because let's say it's your team or your side or your tribe, whatever you want to call it, that's under jeopardy, then when an instance does happen where you actually do need the cops to help you, or you do need this government to bail you out or something like that, people aren't going to take it as seriously. Because what that does, it feeds, because keep in mind that this is not just a one-side thing, by the way. This whole my side, their side, or us versus them thing, this happens on both sides. And this is me, okay? I'm going to speak as an African American right here, because one of the reasons why I really do despise when people act this way, like in terms of this whole us, me type of thing, is because the people who really get hurt the most are the black people and African Americans. Straight up. This case had facts out there, and most people with a brain cell can tell, okay, this adds up, okay, this adds up, okay, yeah, this was okay, this is legit, it was self-defense, and everyone, most people can do the math and then say, okay, this was probably a self-defense type of case. Most people can. But what happens when those people who knows that, okay, this verdict is probably correct, sees other people rioting, and then they're just like, wait, why are they rioting? Because they see it as, it's like someone is complaining about something that's correct. You know, and it's not a good feeling, because what that does is, especially if, let's say, okay, let's take the whole left-right issue, and somebody's on the left side, and they say, okay, well, even they're logically thinking about it, and they're saying, all right, cool, now I have all the evidence, because a lot of these issues start off because all the evidence footage is not out there yet, so a lot of people just kind of like assume that, assume a lot of things, because like when I first heard about this case back then, what I heard was young white boy was shooting civilians down in I think it's Kenosha, and waved at the cops while doing it. That's what I heard. If you have a brain cell, you'd probably look that up and say, okay, well, this doesn't add up. After you've had the evidence presented in front of you, most people, let's say on the left side, all right, will see that, okay, well, I jumped to conclusions. They'd be like, okay, well, maybe this, I can see how this led to this and all this happened, and fine, okay, but then they'll see people protesting, destroying stuff or whatever, and then they just think that, well, I thought that verdict was okay. I don't know why you all are wrecking. And then they'll start wondering, okay, did am I on the right side? Am I on the right team? This is, quote unquote team. And then the people on the right side are gonna look, and then just all that whole thing is gonna confirm their bias, saying, oh yeah, well, like the left side, leftist tears, all that stuff, and it's like this is how they react, and blah blah blah. It's all confirmation bias for them, and all this at the end of the day hurts black people and African Americans, because the younger generations, the kids right now, are gonna be seeing this, and they're gonna be, if I put it, let's say imprinted, afflicted, whatever you want to call it, by this action, because what they're gonna see is they don't know what's going on. All they see is the destruction. All they see is the looting. All they see is all this, all the actual stuff that's advertised on TV. They see all that, because keep in mind, biases aren't like inbuilt in us when we're born. Biases, prejudice, racism, that's all learned, and all these things start from stereotypes. Because a lot of people only need maybe a few experiences of a certain kind to form a bias around that. So let's call a spade, honestly. That's the whole point I wanted to get at with this video. If something's good, let's say it's good. Don't say, oh, it's only good because he's this white race, or he's this ethnicity, or it's this gender, or whatever. If it's good, say it's good. If it's wrong, say it's wrong. Because that's how we devolve into tribalism, and that just causes more problems down the line. And this is also in terms of dating, because you guys know in this red pill space, a lot of guys have been burnt a lot, and some people haven't even been burned. They're just being exposed to all this black pill, red pill, toxic, the toxic part, which I really will just say black pill. A lot of these guys have been exposed to that kind of rhetoric, so much so they've started literally resenting and hating women. And women are the same way. Like, they've been exposed to some of this really, really extreme agendas, and then they start saying all men are trash, all men suck, and all that stuff. We gotta call a spade, because if we can't say things, if we can't address the facts and accept the facts for what they are, then at that point we're not really talking anymore. There's no logic, there's no conversation being had. It's all just saying, whatever you say, I'm not listening because you're not my team, and whatever I say, you're not listening because I'm not on your team. And no, we're just not go anywhere. And you can treat some things like that, like a football game, a soccer match. You can treat those things like that. But when it comes to real life, that's when problems start. Because if you treat real life like you take sides on a football match or a soccer game, everybody loses. Because at the end of the day, we all have to live in this world. So yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you find yourself thinking this way because of maybe you've been like watching a lot of, say like red pill, leftist, rightist, whatever content on the internet, and you find yourself in this boat, detoxify a little bit. Have some time to actually listen to the other side. Well, that's all I have for you guys. This was a little bit of a rant. Just wanted to talk about this because I didn't want to know what you guys think, because this is one of those topics every single time it's brought up, and I just don't mean the Kyle Rittenhouse situation. I just mean identity politics in general, plus this whole us versus them, because I do have some friends who just post all this post saying that, you're either with us or against us, you're either part of the solution or part of the problem, or something like that. If you think, Kyle Rittenhouse was a victim, then you probably, hate Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, and all these other cases. No, thing is, those cases are just as bad. Those were tragic cases because those guys died. But yeah, let me know what you think. What's your thoughts on identity politics? Do you think it's something that's really helping us or hurting us? Because I do know there are arguments for both sides, especially when it comes to a lot of this self-identity rhetoric, that we're in right now. But yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think. I'll catch you in the next one.